Welcome back to our 20th anniversary celebration. This week, by the way, also marks my 15th anniversary at CNN. One moment I'll never forget occurred on Larry King Live when a certain key suspect in a certain highly publicized murder case was missing. I was in the middle of a conversation about that suspect, by the way, with John Mack, president of the LA chapter of the Urban League, when our executive producer told me something was coming in on the control room monitor. Okay, I'm going to have to interrupt this call. I understand we're going to go to a live picture in Los Angeles. Is that correct? Okay, this is Interstate 5, and this is courtesy of KCALR, one of our LA affiliates. Police believe that O.J. Simpson is in that car.
It was amazing. Nobody knew for sure at the beginning if he was in it, but then once there were more radio reports and they could hear, they were listening. He was on a cell phone. He had a gun to his head. The story became bigger and bigger, and we realized, yes, it was O.J. Simpson, and AC was driving.
They believe that this vehicle is registered to Al Cowlings, one of O.J.'s oldest friends, a teammate at Southern Cal.
It was like watching a made-for-television movie. You couldn't take your eyes off of it.
You do have a man with a gun in that car.
We didn't know what was going to happen. Was he going to shoot somebody? Was he going to give himself up? Or what exactly was going to happen?
We went to various locations in anticipation that he may drive by us, but didn't, and ultimately were told to get over to the house as quickly as you can. I remember getting out of the car, and we were about a block away, and the police had cordoned off the area. And I remember looking down the street about 5 minutes before O.J. arrived and seeing, for instance, a bush running across the street. And in essence, it was an undercover police officer dressed like a bush.
Simpson's car, after an almost 2-hour chase, pulled into his estate, providing even more drama. For several minutes, the car sat motionless.
It was the most surreal scene I think I've ever seen personally.
When Simpson emerged holding a photo of his family instead of a gun, he was taken into custody. Ironically, what he drank was orange juice. Now, for O.J., a future, much like the chase, is filled with uncertainty. Greg Lamont, CNN, Los Angeles.
When we realized there was going to be a trial, we started building up the staff. We brought in people from a number of other bureaus. We brought in people from New York, from Atlanta, from San Francisco, and we eventually had a staff of 70 just working on that one story every single day.
Did O.J. Simpson really kill Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman?
It quickly became obvious that this was not going to be your typical murder trial. Why? You have a celebrity. Again, you have money involved. You have people who can hire high-powered legal teams. Most trials in this country are not anything like the O.J. Simpson trial.
Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Kardashian, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Blazer.
As it began to unfold, and as new sort of subplots came into it, charges that the defense made that evidence was planted by the Los Angeles Police Department.
His testimony is expected to become a legal battleground, and his name a household word.
Mark Furman, M-A-R-K, F-U-H-R-M-A-N.
Charges that some of the arresting and investigating officers were motivated by racism.
Recent changes in California law will allow, as one lawyer put it, more mudslinging when it's the defense turn to cross-examine Detective Furman.
It's as these things got sort of put into the blender that the story takes on a life of its own, and then once you're in it for the duration because you just can't get out of it. I mean, you get sort of dragged along much the same way that the wind of a hurricane kind of moves you along. You can try to resist it, but good luck, you can't do it.
It was unbelievable. It was a soap opera. It was compelling. It was real.
I'm Jim Moran in Los Angeles. A 980 hearing is underway right now in Judge Lancito's courtroom in the O.J. Simpson trial to decide whether to pull the plug on television coverage.
Our audience's appetite was just insatiable. They could not get enough.
We're pleased to welcome Denise Brown with us from our studios. in Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us, Denise.
How are you?
As
Fine. What
much
do you
as
ask?
people would say, enough OJ. But every time we produced an OJ show, our ratings tripled.
I can't explain exactly what's going on, of why I am sitting here with you or whatever's going on in my life. It's coming from a different source.
It's been a whirlwind, right?
It has been.
Mixed emotions?
Yes.
It became a cast of characters. These folks became celebrities. Cato Kalin became a celebrity.
And now you're changing that testimony. Is that what you're doing, sir?
Yes.
Many people came to know these folks on a first-name basis. People would talk about Marcia, her hair. Oh, gee, she looks better now than she did at the beginning of the trial. What was happening? What was happening to us?
Prosecutors have said they'll decide by the end of the month whether to seek the death penalty in the Simpson case.
Every time I met folks at dinner parties, at weddings, at bar mitzvahs, I would be in the grocery store and somebody would say, "You're Greg Lefebvre. What about that OJ?" Not, is it like to work with Ted Turner? Isn't being on TV interesting? Have you been to some interesting places? No, it's, what about that OJ?
It's just before 6 a.m. and they are already arriving, coming to the sidewalks, scaffolds, temporary tents, trailers, and cubicles that have replaced the newsrooms they used to know. Many lived across the country a year ago. Now they call this place home.
A whole city was built across the street from the courthouse that we called Camp OJ, where rafters were built, where high-rises were built for other media to do their live shots from.
Check in 3, 2, 1. Judge Lancito. Camp OJ was nuts. It was just nuts. And you had everybody clamoring for the best camera angle. You had everybody clamoring for the last little tidbit. You would have a lot of reporters writing notes down very carefully in their hands, and then when it was revealed, you see it was really just a lunch menu, but they were just trying to spoof you.
And it in essence became part of my life, because I would spend 12 hours a day there, and at times wondering why. Why am I involved in all this? And when will this come to an end? And will it please hurry up and come to an end?